This session focuses on creating a supportive workplace for recovery and return to work. Please welcome Sheila Robinson, owner of IMS Group. Sheila, the stage is yours.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. It's really amazing to be with everyone today, and I really do appreciate being invited in to speak today. My name is Sheila Robinson. Just to give you a little background about myself, I come from EMS. I was a paramedic in Saskatoon for over 20 years. I was injured in the line of duty one night. And what I thought was going to be an injury that was going to take, maybe a couple days and some Tylenol, ended up unfortunately with 18 months in rehab, and just trying to recover from my injury. So it wasn't quite as easy as I thought it was going to be. Now I work as an injury management specialist, working with clients across Canada. I work with them now from the onset of an injury to implement standards and processes, as well as developing psychological return to work plans and instituting mental health programs for injured employees to recover and return to work. After being an injured worker and now working with employers, I just wanted to share some of the things that I believe are important in creating a supportive workplace and the benefits that can come from this initiative. When we discuss return to work and recover at work programs, I believe we have to consider two major components in this planning. We have the operational side of return to work, and we have the mental health aspect. Both need to be addressed, and our ability to prepare for an injury in the workplace will determine how both impact an injured employee. If we address the operational demands that come from a workplace injury and we discuss the mental health of the worker, we'll be in a far better position to support that worker and the business as a whole. So today I'd like to spend just a little bit of time reviewing the key components and strategies needed for a strong return to work and recover at work program. The key components consist of strategic planning and policies, effective communication, and providing mental health support. A return to work and recover at work program should outline the steps for creating a plan that's flexible and obtainable for someone who's been hurt at work. Safety and management play a major role in adjusting the duties and workload accommodation. Communication is extremely important to ensure that the roles, goals, and responsibilities are clear from the onset of the return to work plan. Incorporating a mental health support system into a worker's recovery can have a positive impact on the success of the injury recovery and the worker's mental well-being throughout the process. We know what to do after someone gets hurt, but are we already too late to determine how our language and communication impact an employee's outcome? The way we communicate with an injured worker can make all the difference in their success in recovery and the morale of the company. Once someone's been hurt, it's too late to address our workplace culture. Every worker is watching us and how we handle a workplace injury, but more importantly, how we treat that injured worker. How we talk, what we say, and how we demonstrate concern are in full view. So some of the questions I like to reflect on is our workplace ready to support an injured worker? And as an organization, do we contribute to their recovery, or are we the roadblock? We need to understand how we'll create a contingency plan if a key team member gets hurt and how to manage that situation. As much as we plan to prevent injuries from occurring with our robust safety programs, proper implementation, training, and safety incentives, we need to plan and prepare for an injured worker and how we'll move into action when that happens. Being prepared for a workplace injury accommodation allows our frontline supervision the ability to shift the workload, move teams around, and keep the business moving. But it also helps to be better prepared for how we can communicate the next steps to the injured worker. This goes a long way to what employees think or believe about the organization, and it can create or destroy a workplace culture if it's not handled proactively. These are, in my opinion, are some of our opportunities for your organization to have an impact on how to proactively address workplace injury and how to support an injured worker. So let's spend just a little time looking at these strategies. The saying goes that you never get a second chance to make a first impression, and this is certainly true when it comes to informing your new worker on what they can expect from the organization if they were to get hurt. And while no one wants to plan for an incident or an injury, we have an opportunity to talk about how the company plans to take care of someone should it occur. All new employees should enter your organization with a clear and a positive idea of what happens if they get hurt. This is your chance to frame that language and care, and this is their first impression of what they can expect. So I like to take the opportunity with orientation and onboarding of new employees to talk to them about injuries. Just get it off the table and have that conversation. So first of all, who do they tell? When do they report it? And what types of things need to be reported in the workplace? What happens next? And nobody likes to talk about this, but you have to talk about light duty, letting them know that you have work for them. You will always be able to take care of them. You'll always look and explore light duty options for them if they were to be hurt. And talk about WCB. It's not a secret. It's okay to talk about it. And this is your chance to frame it. One of the things we do with our clients right now is planning for the demands of a workplace injury. So we've been spending a lot of time reviewing departments' daily job demands to create alternate duties and return to work strategies. We look at each department within the organization and we consider the workload on each team member. So before an injury happens, we need to be prepared for how that can impact the disruption in production, in deadlines, and timeframes. And being prepared to reallocate the workload or move key team members around in the short term allows us to be in a better place to talk to an injured worker and be that support that they need. Too often we find that the supervisor is trying to manage the incident, keep the workflow going, and then try to talk calmly to someone who's in pain. And even the best and the most experienced person can only manage that for so long. So being prepared to manage the work allows us to be there for that injured person. So what we like to do is, just as an exercise, is just take one department if you had one injury and consider these things. So who could cover for them if they had to be off for the day, if they had to be reduced for, a day or two after? Could you split up their duties amongst other employees? Do you have casual employees to call in or employees who are cross-trained to step in? Does one department need a better contingency plan if they had to manage an injured key team member in the immediate time frame after an incident? Taking this time to prepare for it before it happens, make sure that you're in that position to help. So we provide what we call job jars training, and we work with clients to create those predetermined lists of duties to provide to an injured employee to accommodate their return to work or recover at work program. And this strategy has helped us to improve the communication and recovery of an injured employee, and it sets out clear duties that can be performed while they recover. It also allows the healthcare providers an opportunity to review the actual workplace duties at their medical appointments. And so what job jars are predetermined lists of modified and alternate duties. They're organized by injury types and by job classifications. And then we pair those duties with the temporary limitations of an injury. They're used to assist with timely offers of modified work, and they're used as a communication tool between the company and the injured worker. The worker now has a clear understanding of the tasks that they can perform, but more importantly, what they can't perform or what they're hesitant to do while they're injured. The next thing that I would like to talk about is safe communication. So when a workplace injury occurs, communication with the injured employee requires more than just a standard procedural response. It demands a human touch. The first step is simple yet profound, and that's just to be human. Engaging with an injured worker starts with a genuine inquiry about their well-being. Authentic communication means not asking out of obligation, but showing a genuine interest and concern for an injured worker's situation. It's about creating a space where they feel comfortable sharing the details of their injury and their concerns and emotions. The language used in these interactions is critical. The choice of words, tone, and even the tense can significantly impact how your message is received. So it's not just about conveying information, It's about building a bridge of trust and understanding. Leadership's involvement in this process is pivotal. When leaders actively participate in these conversations, it sends a very powerful message to the injured employee and the entire organization. It means that the employee's well-being is a priority. The involvement should go beyond mere appearances. It should genuinely express the organization's values, ensuring that the injured worker feels seen, heard, acknowledged, and valued. And we can look into the importance of empathy and transparency and the active role of leadership. We also want to explore the need for consistency in communication and the importance of training staff in empathetic communication skills. This approach to communication is simply not just about managing an incident or trying to navigate an injury to the body. It's about nurturing an environment of trust and support, remembering that there's a human being that's needing our help. Embracing humanity in communication is paramount when engaging with someone who suffered a workplace injury. The key is approaching each conversation with a deep sense of empathy and understanding, recognizing that the individual in front of you is experiencing a challenging and potentially life-threatening situation. This approach involves seeing the injured worker not merely as an employee or a case number, but as a whole person with a life and a story far beyond the workplace. When inquiring about their well-being, the sincerity of your concern is crucial. It's not solely about addressing the physical aspects of the injury, but also showing genuine interest in their mental and emotional state. This empathetic communication should convey a clear message, and that the organization regards them as a valued individual whose experiences and feelings matter. Such a human-centered approach not only aids in the individual's recovery process, but also strengthens the overall sense of trust and respect within the workplace culture. Active listening is fundamental to effective communication, especially when interacting with an injured employee. This interaction goes beyond simply hearing the words spoken and focuses deeply on what's not verbally said to understand the emotions and feelings of this person. This process requires giving the injured employee the space and time to freely express their concerns and fears without fear of interruption or judgment. When you actively listen, you're not just waiting for your turn to speak, but you're genuinely engaging with and processing the individual's emotional state. Acknowledging and validating their feelings, even when an immediate solution is not available, can provide immense comfort and reassurance. Empathy in this context involves more than mere understanding. It's about putting yourself in the injured employee's shoes and responding in a manner that reflects genuine comprehension and concern for their situation. Transparency in communication is a cornerstone in building trust, especially when dealing with injured employees. It's crucial to be open and straightforward about the workers' compensation process, ensuring that the injured worker understands what to expect. This transparency involves more than just relaying information. It's about ensuring that the communication is free of complex statements and that the process is explained in simple, easily understandable terms. By doing so, the injured worker can feel included and informed rather than overwhelmed or alienated by the technicalities of a WCB system. Transparent information sharing can also demonstrate respect to the injured worker's intelligence and autonomy, empowering them to participate actively in their recovery journey. The language used in communication, particularly in the tense and tones of the words chosen, holds significant power in shaping the injured worker's perception and response. The careful selection of words can profoundly impact how the message is received and interpreted. For example, when we're employing the future tense can provide the injured employee a sense of hope and reassurance, conveying a commitment to ongoing support. For example, we use phrases like, "We will be supporting you through recovery, we're here for you." It's important to avoid negative or passive language, as this can unintentionally convey a sense of burden or neglect. Using negative phrasing and tone can convey a feeling of blame to an already vulnerable and hurt individual. Leaders and others involved in the WCB claim should use phrases to empower and be inclusive. ensuring that the injured worker feels valued and an integral part of the recovery. The active involvement of leadership in the communication process with injured workers is more than a procedural step. It's a profound demonstration of the organization's values and commitment. When leaders personally engage in these communications, it sends a very clear message that the company genuinely cares about its employees at every level. This personal outreach by leaders, especially the immediate supervisor, can significantly boost the injured workers' morale, making them feel genuinely valued and respected within the organization. It's important for leaders to check in on the injured workers' progress as they recover. This ongoing support and attention show that their recovery and well-being are immediate concerns as well as sustained priorities for the organization. This direct involvement from leadership can serve as a model for other employees, fostering a workplace culture of empathy and support. Training and effective communication is an essential investment for organizations when dealing with injured employees. It's crucial for staff, especially those in managerial roles, to be well equipped with the skills necessary for empathetic and effective communication. This training should cover key areas such as expressing empathy, practicing active listening skills, and handling sensitive conversations with the appropriate tact and understanding. By empowering staff with these competencies, organizations can ensure that injured workers receive a consistently empathetic and supportive response, regardless of whom they're interacting with. And such training benefits the immediate interactions with injured workers and contributes to a broader organizational culture that values and effectively practices empathetic communication. While the initial injury causes physical symptoms like pain and discomfort, there can be a significant psychological injury that can occur with a workplace injury. We want to emphasize the importance of mental well-being in recovery. Depending on the type of injury or trauma that occurs, we do see fear avoidance in return to work programs or a hesitation to return to the role that caused the physical injury. Some injured workers experience shame after being injured or believing that they are being blamed for what happened. A worker's fear or shame can prevent them from fully participating in the return to work or recover at work program. So incorporating mental health and counseling services as a part of return to work and recover at work programs can be hugely beneficial to the recovery process. Recognizing and being a champion of the mental health component in injury recovery is important, and it lets the worker know that you support all facets of that recovery and rehabilitation. Through the Canadian Mental Health Association and the Mental Health Commission of Canada, we focus on increasing our awareness of how to have safe interactions and how to communicate with someone who's been injured. Some of those leadership sessions that we provide are topics such as emotional intelligence for leaders and safe communication. By providing the mental health first aid course to your team can have a massive impact on how we recognize the signs and symptoms of someone struggling with a declining mental well-being and those who are in crisis. And all of these training sessions will build on the importance and provide confidence with communication in the workplace. So how do we go forward from here? With any new initiative, we want to take an honest assessment of our programs and look for the gaps. The gaps should never be considered a negative, but rather an opportunity to improve your programs that will ultimately benefit your people. Involving the employees in the development or the implementation of the return to work and recover at work programs is important, and it creates an open and honest conversation about the roles and responsibilities of everyone when a workplace injury occurs. Being open to feedback and monitoring the program can be done on an annual basis to assess for improvements and new challenges as they arise. So we spent some time today just reviewing and discussing what a supportive workplace can be and the preparation needed to support an injured worker in a healthy and safe way. Through this discussion today, I hope that this will encourage you and your organization to review and strengthen your own individual programs to be better prepared to build a safe and supportive workplace for an injured worker. And this presentation today proposes to help guide our group through the necessary steps and create awareness around the crucial components of a supportive and mentally healthy return to work and recover at work environment. And I want to thank OHS Canada for the opportunity to talk to everyone today and present the topic of creating a supportive workplace for recovery and return to work for all workers. Thank you.
Thanks, Sheila. We do have time for questions, so go ahead and just a friendly reminder to drop those into the Q&A box. First question for you, Sheila. Are new hires receptive to talking about what happens if they get hurt during their onboarding? Does it give the impression that injuries are common or widespread with an organization?
So it's something that we've never done before. We've never brought it up, I don't think, with any of our employers or any of our clients before. I think we've always been nervous to talk about an injury because it may put that in their mind. I think now more than ever, we have to be transparent and we have to just talk about it. But that gives us that opportunity just to talk. If they were to be injured, if something were to happen, please tell us. If you got hurt at work, we want to help you at work. We're here for you. We want to be able to take care of you if something happens here, but we can't do that if we don't know that it happened. And too often we're seeing the employers are behind the ball. So the worker may have already seen a doctor and the employer had no idea. So we want to sort of be a little bit more transparent as we move forward and just talk about it in more of a positive way.
Okay. One of our participants wants to know, how can you get a worker to heal at work if they're angry about being injured at work?
That's a great question. It's not uncommon either, and I think we likely have somebody on our panel as well who would have great answers for that. So that for me is why I think the mental health component is so important. There are a lot of feelings that you go through. There's a lot of emotions that you go through when you've been injured. I can speak from my own experience being a paramedic injured in the line of duty. For the first, it wasn't until, I spent 18 months in rehab trying to get back to my career, and I never did get back to it. And it wasn't until I went out and met safety professionals when I started to realize why I got hurt. It wasn't that patient's fault. It wasn't anybody else's fault. It was my fault. Decisions I had been making through my career put me in the line of fire. And I realized that, but I didn't realize it until I talked to people in safety, until I talked to a counselor about what I was feeling and what I was going through. And so I'm a big advocate to try to have that incorporated because there's a lot of emotions that we go through when we're hurt. And I think it's important to address those.
Okay. What would you suggest as a best practice to ensure a worker is able to return to work or recover at work safely while maintaining the integrity of their health-related privacy?
So again, I think Dan touched on it. I think Nicole touched on it as well, but that communication is so important. Having those ongoing conversations with people before they come back to work, when they're at work. I think one of the most important things that we can do is to set realistic expectations for recovery. Not every injury rehabs in the same amount of time. Brandy, you and I might have the same injury, but we'll recover in very different ways. And I think it's important to be realistic and set out those realistic expectations so workers were not setting them up to fail. So if they think that this injury should rehab and be full duty in 3 weeks and it's been 3 days, you can become frustrated. And so I think it's really important to set those expectations, but again, ensure that they have that medical team to talk to work through, to keep that privacy and confidentiality. And, again, have that support around them.
Okay, I think this is probably the last question we have time for. How do you secure leadership buy-in for a human-centered approach?
Well, so recently what we've been doing is with the job jars presentation. So when we've been working with employers who are having a hard time identifying light duty in their organizations, bringing supervision in and bringing leadership in and having them be a part of it so that they have an active voice, and they're able to look and find that value added work is a huge part. Sometimes just letting them share their own experiences their own challenges, their own frustrations about why there's no buy-in, or maybe why they're reluctant to look or identify light duty, I think is important. I think everybody has a voice in it. But certainly when we do the job jars training, it gives that leadership a chance to talk about things in real time and work together.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sheila. We appreciate your time.